Welcome to Salute Biohacking podcast. My name is Vanessa Bertinotti and my mission is to build an Italian-speaking tribe that shares my same passion for health optimization and biohacking by bringing to the table experts and people who inspire me. All the information contained in this podcast is purely informative and does not replace medical or therapeutic consultancy. Today we will talk about medicinal mushroom with our guest Eric Puro. Eric is the founder and CEO of Kääpä Health. Kääpä is a medicinal mushroom company from Finland. They have the highest quality medicinal mushroom grown in the cleanest environment in the world. Chaga, lion's mane, reishi, and shiitake are a few of their main products, which I enjoy taking almost every day for their adaptogenic properties. Research shows that these mushrooms are also good for the immune system, relaxation, and lowering inflammation. You can use the code SaluteBioHacking for a 15% discount of all their mushroom at 𝐃𝐴Health.com. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you today because medicinal mushrooms are becoming more popular these days. There are a lot of new brands emerging in the market and not all of them are equal. Many supplements are sold as medicinal mushroom, but they contain very little of the active compound that make mushroom beneficial and bioavailable. I am a big fan of mushroom extract and I think that it's very important to educate people about what they are consuming. Can you tell us your story and why you start growing mushroom in Finland?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I myself have been, really traveling the world for many, many, many years and learning a lot about what impact, what environmental impact, what ecological setting, what that has on the impact of the quality of our food. You know, there's obviously we talk about growing things organic without pesticide, and that's a bit more healthy. But you also start to look at interconnected ecosystems and how different stress factors or soil profiles can provide different nutrition to different plants and mushrooms, and that really fascinated me. And I've been all around. I've been in Italy many times. Portugal, many Mediterranean countries, learning about this and observing this kind of thing. And it really inspired me about thinking about biotech and what is biotech. And I've always been very focused on solving problems. It's just my brain is wired that way. And so hence I'm an entrepreneur. And I've been thinking always how I could solve problems. And I think I grew up in America, and I grew up very much in this way of thinking that, us humans, we are the dominant species on the planet. And if we just develop these different laboratories and we can solve problems through technical solutions, this will be a much better thing. That we are very, very smart and intelligent creatures, and we can do a really better job than nature can. And I was massively humbled in my 20s traveling around. So I said, yeah, biotech is a very interesting approach to solving problems. You actually just look at nature and you observe and you find those patterns and you see what nature has evolved to solve their problems over millions of years, and we try to replicate that. And that's what we do at Kääpä. So, like you mentioned earlier, not all mushrooms are the same. Not all mushroom extract products are the same. And a lot of the difference is about the philosophies of the companies that are making them. And so we're the largest mushroom extract producing company outside of Asia, actually. And that gives us a real advantage in a way. What we have here in Finland is, of course, really, really a strong culture that is very connected with nature. So, you can go to a really nice cafe, coffee shop in Kallio, which is this hipster district of Helsinki. And you can ask the waitress, she comes over with really nice tattoos, and she has super nice haircut and really, big rim glasses and, super trendy city woman. And you ask her how many mushrooms you can harvest, and she'll list out like 10 different mushrooms that she could find in the wild because her grandmother taught her those when she was a kid.
Wow.
And she's still going on the weekends and doing that. And so, in Finland we have the world's largest amount of organic certified forest. And Finland's not the largest country in the world. Well, so what that means is that just a massively disproportionate amount of Finns and Finnish people are really focused and caring about the health of the forest here. So, we're able to be in that ecosystem and then use a lot of that forest material as a food source for our mushrooms. So we just started that place of going, what have these mushrooms been eating for millions of years, and how can we just do the same thing? How can we ensure that the nutritional profile that they have had since the start of time is the same in our operations, our growing operations?
Yeah, it's fascinating. And where does your company name Kääpä come from, and what is your mission?
Kääpä is the word in Finnish language for polypore mushroom. And a polypore mushroom, it's like a reishi mushroom or birch polypore. It's if you look at a mushroom that has gills, like chanterelles, this kind of idea, versus a mushroom that has pores, or many of them, polypore, many pores.
Yeah.
The polypore mushroom is sort of the origin of mushrooms. It is the original design, let's say. So it is, gill mushrooms evolved later. So our company wanted to pay homage to the foundational sort of archetype of a mushroom, which is a polypore. And Kääpä is just a really, for me, it's a beautiful name. It just sounds really nice.
Yeah,
for
awesome.
people, that's also the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long has human been using medicinal mushroom, and for which reasons?
Humans have been using medicinal mushrooms as long as we have found remains of human beings across the world. So, biohacking is something that's maybe new to some of your listeners, or maybe new to, us as a concept. Let's say maybe we're rediscovering it, but just not actually in Italy. There's an area in Italy called Tyrol, which I'm sure I'm horribly pronouncing that.
Tyrol, no, it's correct.
In northern Italy, I think it. Yeah. Near the Austrian border, and there's actually this. They call him Iceman. Do you know this 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐸?
Yeah.
And so when he was found with two different species of mushrooms actually. One was around his neck and one was in his pocket. And the one that was around his neck was actually on a necklace. And the necklace was about the perfect height so that when he would make a cup of tea, he could effectively just lean over and drop that polypore into his tea and make a very rudimentary mushroom extract. And the mushroom that he had there is a mushroom called birch polypore, which is amazing. It's a gastrointestinal type of, it's a deworming type of mushroom. So for somebody who's living thousands of years ago and is eating raw meat that might be a couple days old, I imagine parasites and worms is probably a pretty big issue.
Yeah.
And so he was biohacking his biology to help support the removal of these parasites.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah.
And it was such an important aspect to his life that it was on a necklace.
Yeah. And how our modern world, it's even more important to challenge our immune system if we want to keep our body strong and healthy. And how medicinal mushroom can help us strengthen our immune system.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with how you framed this question more. In the modern world is exactly how you should be thinking about this. Our bodies did not evolve to sit at computers in cities in effectively sterile conditions most of the time. That is absolutely not what our bodies evolved to do. They evolved to walk long distances throughout the day. They evolved to be, eating and consuming much more of the ecosystem in terms of dirt and bacteria. So, it's the same thing if you look at 𝐻𝐸𝐲. They took the same Iceman from Tyrol. They took a plate count of his gut microbiome. And they found up to 100 times more species. And they even found extinct species in his gut biome that were supportive. These we call them probiotics today. These were supportive species helping his gut and his immune system that are actually extinct. We no longer even have access to them anymore. So, I mean, we're just not prepared for one, the type of environment that we live in now, and two, our bodies are a little bit more diminished even in that way. So we need to rely on biohacking. We need to rely on our fungal kingdom allies to help us with this, or plant allies. And one of the major compounds of interest, as we call them, in fungi is beta-1316-D-glucan. And this is a polysaccharide compound which actually passes through the gut, the stomach, and the intestinal wall pretty much undamaged. And it gets behind the intestinal wall and it starts to activate macrophages and a lot of these different killer T cells, cytokines in your immune system. And we have over 850 peer-reviewed scientific papers demonstrating these points. The effect on the immune system from beta-1316-D-glucans from fruiting bodies of fungi, mushrooms we call them, is one of the most profound aspects. So that's why they call them adaptogenic. When they're activating your immune system, they're either calming it down if it's overactive, so helping with autoimmune issues, or it's speeding it up. And many times in our situation, what it's doing is speeding it up. When our bodies, when we're in, so here at our laboratory here in Finland, we're working with lots of strains of mushrooms, and some of them are ectomycorrhizal strains that work in the soil. Some of them are not necessarily medicinal strains, and they can be contaminated and overrun by bacteria very quickly. So we have what we call a clean room, and we work in clean conditions. And people who work in our clean room in clean conditions can only be working in there for a number of hours, as mandated by European law. The reason being, such a clean environment actually just tells your immune system, you don't need to work anymore. It tells it to go on break. and that's, as an overall situation, that's what's happening to humanity right now. We're getting lazy immune systems because we're not eating dirt. We're not consuming large amounts of raw meat. We have a totally different lifestyle. So something like a beta-1316-D-glucan from fruiting bodies of mushrooms is an absolutely amazing little, stimulant, going in there and kind of roughing things up and going, hey, get back together. Hey, go search for problems in the body. They have found, beta-1316-D-glucans in every aspect of your body. So once it passes over that intestinal wall, you can actually find those compounds at all places in the body, helping to assist and direct and motivate and inspire and kind of really get the immune system activated. So if you are constantly getting sick, if you have inflammation issues, if you have, any kind of, immune disease issues, I would highly recommend taking a look at something like a beta-glucan product to really help to get things balanced back out again.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. And which are the health benefits of medicinal mushroom? Let's talk about your 7 type of mushroom tincture you produce: chaga, lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, shiitake, maitake, and cordyceps. Can you tell us what the health benefit all these mushrooms have in common, and which are the benefits that makes each species unique?
That's a great question. So every one of these species of mushrooms, they contain different amounts of beta-glucans.
Yes.
These 1316 beta-glucans. And they also contain a little bit different kinds of beta-glucans. So, for instance, turkey tail contains a beta-glucan compound that's known as PSK. And PSK is basically effectively what they give you in Japan if you have breast cancer. It's so effective on stopping breast cancer. That is the doctor-prescribed and pharmacy-approved medicine for breast cancer for women in Japan. So, they all have kind of their different, let's say, aspects. But all these beta-glucans, effectively what they do in some way or another is are adaptogenic on your immune system. Because, what is cancer? Cancer is basically just a, out of whack immune system that's not balancing this overgrowth in our bodies. So, every one of these mushrooms have a little bit different beta-glucan compounds that affect the immune system in a little bit different ways. Mm-hmm. But they have all that, the immune adaptogenic aspect of fungi is just, it's not debatable. And that's a very clear compound of interest. It's very important. And then what our company does, we also like to talk about these kind of secondary metabolites, mm-hmm. Or secondary compounds of interest, which are very interesting and unique to each mushroom. So would you like me to go through a couple?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we could start with chaga,
mm-hmm.
which is, if you look at, right now Europe is the fastest growing market for medicinal mushrooms mm-hmm. products. I think it's just in the last few years, it's starting to become more in the zeitgeist, let's mm-hmm. say.
Yeah.
And a lot of that influence is, of course, coming from the American market. So if we look to the American market, the top 3 selling mushroom products are basically lion's mane, reishi, and chaga.
Yes.
So I'll talk about those first. So Please. If we talk about chaga, why is chaga so popular? I think personally, for me, it's the only mushroom that I take daily.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I take it daily is that it has the highest amount of antioxidants gram per gram of anything on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in a class of its own in terms of antioxidant compounds.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that chaga does is that through its biology and through its substrate, it's actually taking antioxidant compounds from the living birch tree, mm-hmm. and it's making those bioavailable. So it's taking compounds in the birch tree, changing the molecular structure a little bit to make it bioavailable through a digestive process, mm-hmm. and then allowing that to be taken by humans in a productive form. So this is where how it grows matters. Yeah. You cannot grow chaga in a laboratory. You cannot grow it on dead wood. Chaga is only chaga if it's basically grown in living birch trees. Mm-hmm. So we do 2 things at our company. We're foraging lots of chaga up in the Arctic Circle in northern Finland.
Mm-hmm.
We have a foraging network of over 25 different foragers that are out there picking chaga for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also cultivate it. So we are inoculating living birch trees for us here in Finland, and we're the largest cultivator of chaga in the world. So chaga for us it's one of the most special medicinal herbs on the planet, and we want to ensure a very sustainable and renewable source of chaga to help meet this growing demand here in the European market.
Awesome.
And the U.S. market.
Wow. Yeah, he's the king of mushrooms.
I think so. So. It's one that everyone can take almost. I mean, there are some pretty good studies showing that it's a little bit of a blood thinner,
mm-hmm.
which is generally kind of helpful. But if you're taking any sort of blood thinning medication or have blood thinning issues,
mm-hmm.
then of course it would just not be a good thing to take without advising from a doctor.
Yeah.
But it's almost everyone can just take it.
Mm-hmm.
So as we know, when we age, the process of aging really happens from these crazy free radicals blasting around the body, destroying our RNA and DNA. So when our cells, sort of get grown again,
mm-hmm.
they don't grow again in this perfect way according to their DNA and RNA because there's breaks in that.
Mm-hmm.
So what antioxidants do is they effectively neutralize those free radicals. And so they allow for, people say it's a very big cosmetic product also right now. So it's good for the skin, it's good for the hair, but it's also good for your organ. It's good for your heart. It's good for your lung. It's good for anything that's regrowing, which all of our body cells are regrowing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's a lot of biohackers are taking chaga right now because it's not how long you live. It's just the quality of life you have while you're living.
Mm-hmm.
And chaga and antioxidants in general, a high antioxidant regime, I'd say, is a pretty good, important aspect to that goal.
Yeah, I love it too. So
yeah, so that's chaga.
Good.
If we skip to something like
lion's
mane,
yes.
Are you taking lion's mane?
Yes, as well. Yes.
Yeah, good. This is probably, I'd say, my second most important mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, other people have different opinions, but this is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And lion's mane is a very incredible mushroom. It's probably the most growing in interest. I don't know how to say that exactly, but I think growing in interest is a very good way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because of some studies, we have about 30 different clinical trial studies in our database showcasing effects on cellular regeneration from lion's mane.
Yeah.
And in particular, a few different compounds called 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐿 and 𝐻𝐿. And we're still at the very early, I want to stress that, stage of scientific understanding of how this is working. Our company is working with a research institute actually in Germany, Pharmaceutical Research Institute, to learn more about these compounds. So it's something that's very important for us to keep pushing this boundary. But the early stage scientific research and literature and studies is showing that these compounds, specifically in lion's mane fungi, are absolutely incredible for helping the early onset of brain degeneration diseases and gut problems. So anywhere where there's cells that are basically regenerating all the time, our gut and our brain, it's helping to support that healthy activity. So as we all know, when we get about 30 years old, you start to forget stuff. And God, I am so guilty of that somehow. Like, where's my keys at?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 10 o'clock. I have a podcast with Vanessa. We sometimes forget these things,
Yeah.
So I think lion's mane is a really nice ally to help just ensure proper gut and brain health as you age. So that's why a lot of biohackers are very interested in lion's mane, I would say.
Yeah, and I think it's increased also the quality of sleep. I also measure my sleep with Oura Ring, and lion's mane is one of these mushrooms that enhance the sleeping quality. For sure, I think.
Good.
Yeah, in my case at least. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard it. There hasn't been a lot of studies with lion's mane and sleep, but that's the cool thing about the world right now, is that all of us are little one experiments with our Oura Rings, and we can find out and tailor what works for us the best. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know why lion's mane is working for you really well, but you're not the first person I've heard that from. But it's an incredible find for you, huh? That you found something that can help. God, anything to help us sleep better,
Yeah, it's really, it's fascinating. So I like to test and experiment with mushrooms in this last 2 years, and I think it's something. Yeah, sounds like magic, but it's not magic. It's something that you can really feel and measure. I had this awesome experience, so it's really nice. Yeah, and
I'm happy to hear that.
And what about reishi?
Reishi, well, like I goes. Do you know a biohacker? He's from Estonia. His name is 𝐶𝐸𝐵 Land.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
so 𝐶𝐸𝐵 is a really great guy, and I love that. One of the biggest things, I see him all the time at different, congresses or biohacking events, or we've done a podcast together. I just love that. One thing I always hear him saying is that. The number one thing we could do as like biohackers or as humans is to increase our sleep and water.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's just that simple. I mean, you get those two things right, everything else that we worry so much about probably falls into line. So, and so what an amazing thing lion's mane is helping with sleep. It's such an important part.
Yeah.
But reishi mushroom, I would say, is more people are using reishi mushrooms for sleep specifically.
Yes. Yeah.
So, of course, it's immunodeptogenic. Of course, it has those kind of benefits. But, there's quite a bit of studies, and we've had just overwhelming amount of testimonials from our own customers who are getting increased REM sleep specifically as a result of a reishi regimen. It's very close to home in the sense that my wife is taking reishi every night, and she also has Oura Ring, and it's maybe saved our marriage, given her some sanity from some sleep. So, such an amazing ally reishi is for that help. Personally, when I close my eyes at night, I am done for about 8 to 10 hours, depending on the night. So I pretty much need no help for sleeping, but I think I'm very lucky in that sense.
Yeah, I think it depends also in the age. of a person after 40 years, and I speak for myself, so I noticed after 40, when I turned 40, the sleep is not the same as before, and so many factors works in that sense, and I think reishi. I take reishi before going to sleep, and it's for sure the sleeping mushroom. So lion's mane, I think it's something different, or make something different for me. I taking lion's mane in the morning and reishi in the evening. So, but with mushroom, for me, the sleeping quality is really increased. So yeah, good. And turkey tail, because you are producing turkey tail, I noticed, and cordyceps, but you are not selling in Europe, right? At this moment.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, there's some legislation in Europe called novel food legislation. And the novel food legislation effectively limits new innovative type of food or food supplements being brought to market.
Okay.
And there's some countries like Netherlands where they don't even really listen to the European Food Authority on this, and they just let new kind of innovative food supplements come to market.
Yeah.
But Finland is quite strict with these things. So we were asked to basically focus only on the U.S. market with these products.
I see.
So we're working right now, as a community, and as, like I said, the medicinal mushroom industry is the fastest growing in the world in Europe. And we do a lot of private label production for other mushroom brands, and we work with a lot of companies in the industry, and one of the things that we're spearheading right now is an effort to change this legislation. So it's a couple-year process, and it just involves a lot of safety studies, which we know we already have done. So we know that these are safe mushrooms to take. It's just that we need to go through these proper processes. So it was a bit sad. Cordyceps and turkey tail are very important fungal mushrooms with very, very interesting secondary metabolites, especially cordyceps. Cordyceps actually has it, Cordyceps militaris specifically. So if you're looking for mushroom products with cordyceps, you can still buy Cordyceps militaris in Europe, but you can't buy it, made in Europe. Because we're growing it here. So we were kind of regulated. There's still some companies that are importing it from China. But if you go to buy a cordyceps product, please buy only a Cordyceps militaris product. Cordyceps sinensis, or CS4, doesn't have the secondary compound called cordycepine at all, or these adenosines in general. And these adenosines, or cordycepine is an adenosine, are the only ones that have been studied and actually now have been documented as one of the only things that's not native to our body that actually stimulates the production of ATP in our cells. So it's clean, pure, beautiful cellular energy, basically, is what cordyceps does. Cordyceps militaris specifically, and the fruiting body of Cordyceps militaris has this cordycepine compound. So it's a really incredible mushroom, and I hope we can bring it to market here soon, within the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I know I used to take also cordyceps from Australia, and I think it's a great mushroom. I used to take it in the morning, but I'm waiting for yours to come out. So
yeah.
Good. And so what about turkey tail? Has benefit of turkey tail?
Yeah, turkey tail. Not only, of course, it has turkey tail and maitake are kind of the turkey tail, maitake, and shiitake, I'd say, are really the three that have some of the highest levels of beta-glucan. So when I think of turkey tail, maitake, and shiitake, I really think of kind of, immune adaptogenic powerhouses. And they just seem to have much more levels of these beta-glucans and a much more diverse range of these beta-glucans.
Yeah.
But with turkey tail specifically, it also has some good studies on gut health. It has some good prebiotics for your gut, for your probiotics. It's got some gut balancing type compounds. It's got some interesting fibers, and of course with our compounds, with our extracts, with the either liquid or powder, basically that we're leaving some of the original fiber in there as a reason that the fiber is quite important for gut health. So it's a prebiotic. So turkey tail, I'd say, is quite, mainly for gut and feeling.
Okay. And shiitake, I'm taking not very often shiitake personally, but what are the benefits of shiitake?
Yeah, that's also my situation too. I have shiitake in my office. I have shiitake at my home, and I'm taking shiitake when I start to feel sick.
Yes. Okay.
And the reason for that is that shiitake actually has an incredible compound called 𝐿-ergothiorine, which has gotten a lot of publicity now in the U.S. because of this whole COVID thing that's been going on. And specifically, it has this compound 𝐿-ergothiorine, which is a cytoprotectant, meaning it's actually strengthening your cell walls. So when we think about why mushroom chemicals work on humans, if we just take a big step back, we need to think of that humans are more closely related to fungi than we are to plants, actually. We have a closer biology to fungi than we do to plants.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of our pharmaceutical medicine is those compounds are derived from fungi. And when we think about what the difference was, so what happened with the immune system of fungi and of humans, when that split happened and we evolved different paths, what was the difference? Mainly with humans, we evolved these much stronger cellular type structures for our immune system. So it's very difficult for virus, bacteria, and whatnot to kind of get into our cells. With fungi, they developed a very chemical-based immune system that is actually kind of chemically stopping those different compounds from coming into the cells. So that's why, but we basically have receptors for their compounds. We can actually use those compounds that they're making, those chemical compounds. And this is so when we think about, shiitake, one of its adapted sort of mechanisms to help stop the invasion of viruses and whatnot, bacteria, which many of the same viruses that afflict humans also afflict fungi. What it does is it actually sends out a chemical called 𝐿-ergothiorine, which it strengthens the cell walls and slows down the time for viruses to overwhelm the body's immune system and replicate itself with the mitochondria of its host cells. So, so if I start to feel sick, I go, okay, oh God, and I go take like 4 or 5 big dropperfuls of shiitake a couple times per day, and I just overload on shiitake. At the first signs of sick, maybe a little bit of a sore throat, my nose is starting to run. Anything that I'm going, okay, I'm getting attacked by something here. Let's biohack a little bit.
Yeah.
let's give them some support.
Great. And maitake.
Maitake. Yeah. So this is probably the highest in beta-glucans of any fungi that we work with, and mainly it's working with immune adaptogenic properties. There's also some very interesting studies on regulating women's menstrual cycles, which to me, is not so important, but I've heard this is a very important thing for women that are struggling with this. So, some hormonal balancing, from what I understand too. Okay. So maitake can be a quite effective fungi ally for the right person, I think.
I see. Yeah, it's the only mushroom that I never tried. Okay. So I will try soon, but I never had any experience with maitake, so I can't tell you my feeling about this mushroom. So,
I'd say it's not one of the most popular.
Yeah. So you gave us an overview about the benefits and of all these mushrooms, and so you also talk about adaptogen and nootropic. Can you explain maybe a bit better for the people who doesn't know what those terms mean? What do you mean by adaptogen mushroom or nootropic mushrooms? So it's clear for everybody.
Yeah, that's good. So adaptogen, I actually just recently gave a keynote speech on adaptogen. What is adaptogens? For this Nutri-Ingredients Congress. So it's fresh in my memory right now.
Good.
But adaptogens, I think, are basically defined as a type of usually a plant or mushroom, which is helping to sort of balance our body, helping it reach homeostasis. So it's self-regulating type of fungi or substance. So it's usually not just one chemical compound or even in a group of compounds. Sometimes it's usually a whole plant or whole mushroom is what we call an adaptogen. And by taking it, it's able to help up or down regulate your nervous system, your energy levels, your immune system. It's helping keeping you on medium. Not keeping things on medium, keeping things just working just fine.
In balance.
That's what I would call an adaptogen.
Okay. And about nootropics, so it's the same word or it's something else? Yeah,
I think I'd say it's overused a lot right now.
Okay.
This nootropic, but when I tend to think of what is a nootropic for me, I tend to think a lot that it's maybe a little bit deeper, and it's helping the brain.
Okay.
It's helping some more complex functions.
Okay.
When I think of that.
Good. And the majority of scientific studies are based on the mushroom fruiting bodies, and that is where all the good stuff lies. In your mushroom factories, you produce only functional tincture, 100% organic fruiting bodies. Can you explain us why it's so important to choose supplement based on mushroom fruiting bodies, and what exactly 100% fruiting bodies mean?
Yeah, I can. Thanks for bringing that up. So it's important when looking at mushroom products that you know what you want out of them, first of all, and you have a goal in mind. Because depending on the extraction methods that are used and whatnot, there's ways to enhance certain areas, certain compounds of mushrooms, and decrease others. And so you really, as a consumer, need to be educated on what is your expectations and what do you hope to get out of that. Yeah. Right now, we're at a fairly early stage, I'd say, of this kind of introduction to a lot of consumers or health conscious biohackers are kind of being introduced right now to mushrooms. So they maybe don't know exactly fully. They need to take it and kind of see what it does and learn a little bit about it.
Yeah.
But as we become more interested in these fungi, and as we become more knowledgeable of what they provide for us, we can kind of tailor that a little bit more. So, the good place to start is with fully extracted mushroom fruiting bodies. And what you can be guaranteed there is that, one, it's fruit bodies, so you have the full range of compounds that are important, mainly beta-glucans, which beta-glucans do not exist in other forms of fungi, so like mycelium on grain, something like that.
Yes.
And the extraction is very important because these compounds are not necessarily bioavailable to you. So if you were to go out and buy a bunch of shiitakes and dry them in your dryer and grind them into a powder and take that every day, you're getting a lot of good fiber, but that's about it. You're not going to be able to make those compounds bioavailable. So what our company uses is a process called ultrasonic assisted extraction, which is a very, very technical process that's been developed recently, mainly for the CBP industry. So it's a very high intensive way of ensuring bioavailability of of compounds. And what it does is it breaks this chitin cell wall of the fungal fruiting body and opens up those compounds for us to be able to absorb and use. And when you look at the market, there's a few companies here in Europe that are producing what's called mycelium on grain.
Yes.
There's also a few companies importing mycelium on grain products from China, and I'd say that's the majority of the products on the market right now.
Yeah.
And when you look at a mycelium on grain product, basically it's over 90% grain. So if you're taking a 1 gram tablet or a pill, and let's say that pill is mycelium on grain, you're getting less than 10% of that is actually fungal material at all.
Yeah.
Most of it's just some rye grain or rice or some, just starch basically.
Yes.
And there are beneficial compounds in mycelium. That's important to say. We're learning a lot about these compounds in mushrooms all the time. So our company is not super dogmatic in the sense that there's one way to do this. Every day we learn new information. But what is very clear to us is that some species mycelium has interesting compounds which are being researched further for benefits, and some don't. And what we do know is that all fruiting bodies do have very interesting compounds which have tens of years of research, proving some benefits there. Yeah. And mycelium on grain doesn't have any studies backing that up.
Yeah, and
it's basically just grain.
Yeah, and it's really important to know and to let people understand this difference if they want to.
Very important, I'd say. Yeah. I think what can happen is people will try some mushroom product, let's say chaga.
Yes.
And it turns out to be mycelium of chaga grown on grain in a laboratory, and then just basically dried, powdered, and stuck into tablets. And they go, I have no difference at all.
Yeah.
I'm still getting sick. I have no impact on my health. My skin and hair and everything looks the same. I just chaga doesn't work, and that can be the conclusion. When in fact you're not taking chaga, you're taking the mycelium of 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐸 grown on mostly rice. So you shouldn't be expecting a whole lot of products like that.
Yeah. For me, it's important to let people know about this difference because it makes all the difference when you are taking mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, and it's important that people, when they have to choose a brand or to choose a product, they understand correctly what the difference is.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say that in the next few years, I would imagine that our company does come out with some very high potent mycelium products. Just because we are finding very interesting compounds in mycelium.
Okay.
But those will not be grown on grain. There's another way to grow mycelium, which is called there's solid state fermentation and liquid state fermentation. So solid state fermentation is basically when you grow it on grain, and then you take that whole thing and you kind of powder it up. Yes. Liquid state fermentation is actually grown in a liquid medium in a bioreactor. And what this allows you at the end is a absolutely 100% pure mycelium.
Yeah.
So there, if these kind of introduction studies are showing some very interesting compounds from mycelium, that's the way to do it ethically. There's no study showing this rice and grain and stuff is good for you. I mean, well, as a food product, not as a food supplement. So, I imagine our company will be coming out with some very interesting mycelium-based products within the next few years. We're in laboratory scale research and development on this right now. So, but it won't be mycelium on grain. It will be a liquid state fermentation mycelium product.
Yeah, and so
that's why it's a bit more complex.
Yeah,
there's nothing so.
Yeah, there is no black and white. There is always different kind of gray shade in between. Yes.
Yeah.
And are mushroom extract always more be available than dry mushroom powder, or are there some exceptions?
Liquid versus dry.
Yes. Okay.
I think for liquid for us is the most interesting. I think that it definitely as far as we've seen, it's the most like quick acting and bioavailable.
Okay.
No question about it. And it's a bit more raw. It's less processed.
Yes.
And it doesn't taste good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a very palatable product for mass consumer market. But again, with our Kääpä Health brand, most of our consumers are very targeted biohackers in Europe.
Yes.
So, you know, they don't care so much how it tastes.
Yeah,
it's more really about the effect that it's going to have. So, I mean, as our company and as obviously brands that we work with, you know, go to more of a mass market, you start to see a lot more moving to powders, which does diminish a bit of the bioavailability, but not to a point that it makes a huge difference.
Okay.
You know, the cost, of course, also goes up a little bit, you know, this and that, but it's, you know,
yeah,
not a huge difference, I would say.
Okay. And can the different tincture be combined? How often should we take them, and when is the best time of the day to take them? That's
a good question. That's a very good question. I'm limited actually by the European Union to, I don't have a doctor's degree. I mean, I can't say exactly these things.
Yes.
But in my personal experience, basically what I do is I'm taking chaga daily. I'm taking about two different pipettes full of our product.
Okay.
If you're looking at a really nice, if you like a brand that you have right now, probably 1 gram type of a mushroom extract powder is about equal, and that's exactly what you want to take too. So 1 gram tablet per day, and I take that. That's part of my regimen all the time. Okay. Chaga.
Yes.
And if I'm taking reishi. Sometimes you can take something like you know, there's a different, you know, our ring doesn't do this exactly, but there are different biomarker watch products out on the market, which can actually give you haptic feedback on your nervous system activity, and specifically how active or slowed down your nervous system is. And we've seen a lot of biohackers here in Finland success with their customers or their clients that they're kind of giving some health consultation to that have overactive or very stimulus nervous systems that take reishi. Okay. And that's why it helps with your sleep. It just calms your body down. People say the effect is it's very grounding. Yes. So if I'm kind of, you know, traveling or feeling a bit of stress, or if I'm having a big meeting, I need my nerves to be, if I'm doing some negotiations or something, and I need my nerves to be very, very grounded, very, very solid, very, you know, reishi is a very good ally for me for that. If I'm feeling my heart starting to palpitate or something, you know, okay, I look for reishi. Okay. It's very helpful for me with that kind of stress. So it's not something I take every day, thankfully. But yeah, for helping with sleep. And then again, I'm taking lion's mane almost every day, just because of the benefits for this, reducing the possibility onset of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and this kind of thing. I mean, lion's mane I can't maybe tell that it's doing anything right now. Yeah. You know, and the studies all show that it takes a few months for it even to start affecting the regeneration of brain cells. But you know, for me, I take it pretty much almost every day. Okay. So the tincture can be combined, and they absolutely can. Yeah. And I'd say the only effect is of course, you know, reishi maybe you don't want to take in the morning because it's also kind of like slowing you down a little bit. Yes. Whereas something like of cordyceps, when it gets back on the market, you don't want to take that at night. Yes. You know, of course. Yes. So I think you have to be kind of conscious of how it's helping your body. Chaga, I pretty much take in the morning just as part of my morning vitamins that I'm taking. Lion's mane also I take in the morning. Yes. And then what I do too is I'll take always every 6 months I'll take a week or two totally off everything that I do. So okay. Every supplement that I take, I always do a few weeks off every year, and just feel how it is without it, and come back on it and feel how that is, and just try to make sure it's still something that's serving me. Yes. Yeah, I think to make like cycle is always better for everything. Yeah. Like also other supplements, it's good to make a stop for a while. And
Yeah. So, and how do you take them? So do you put the extract in the water or under your tongue? So pure extract under the tongue, or you are taking it in the water?
I think it just depends on what works for each person.
Okay.
I've gotten pretty used to the taste, and somehow there's a really good biohacker here in Finland, and he always recommends all the time that if you're taking a new supplement, you always want to bite the pill,
okay,
chew it around.
Yes.
If you're taking a liquid, to take it straight, and let your body really tell you if that's something that's good for you or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe in that. I think that's a really important thing to do. So for me, I'm not mixing anything in water. I'm taking them just straight. I want to taste. I don't want any microencapsulated powder. I don't want, gel caps. I don't want anything that's going to put some barrier between me and the product. I want to just taste it raw.
Yeah.
So, and from that tasting it raw, I'll go, my body will usually tell me, hey, this is rancid. Oh my God, stop taking this. Or this is,
yeah,
this is really not good.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had that experience with our own products yet, but if I do, I'll stop taking them and hopefully try to reformulate something. But I think it's important to kind of gauge your own body's reaction to the medicine.
Yeah, so I agree.
After you've done that, I don't see anything wrong with putting it in water or coffee or just part of your routine. I see nothing wrong with that.
Great. And you have your outdoor mushroom cultivation farm and your indoor mushroom growing facilities. You talk a bit about that at the beginning of this interview.
Yeah.
Can you explain us why you came up with the idea of having those two different growing conditions?
Well, our company we've now been kind of existing for about 3 years, okay. Basically our 3-year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been very focused on making sure we're moving slow enough that we're not making mistakes, let's say like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the entire medicinal mushroom market right now, everyone is growing these mushrooms for culinary purposes. And then they also just so happen to take from that same stock of culinary mushrooms, be it, reishi or shiitake or lion's mane.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just take it and they'll make medicine out of it. And our company started to ask the question, like, is that wise? Are there different metrics we should be looking at when growing these mushrooms for medicine versus for food?
Mm-hmm.
And we came to the conclusion that yes, absolutely, there are different metrics to look at. So, whereas a restaurant or a catering company might look at shiitakes and need closed gill, small type of mushrooms, a lot of the medicinal compounds in shiitake are actually in the stipe or the stem.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually want a very different type of shiitake grown. And we also started growing everything outdoors. And we have it's a 3-hectare mushroom farm here, about 5-minute drive from our extraction facility. And what we do here is we effectively are just observing how these mushrooms grow in nature, naturally. What happens? Oh my God, look at this. This fungi has a huge amount of infection, actually. Loads of other fungi are competing with this one, and it's having to fight them off. Well, what does that tell us? This fungi needs competition to properly make its compounds of interest, right?
Yeah.
Or we'll see, some mushrooms like more light or like less light. All these things are very important to us. And when thinking about stress factors, because what we're basically after in terms of compounds of these mushrooms are the compounds of these mushrooms release when they're under stress.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we learn from nature what the natural stress factors are. I just listed a couple of them, but there's many. How can we then, when we move to a more indoor growing facility, so we can do this at scale, how can we ensure that these mushrooms are are properly stressed out.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Yeah,
they're making all the compounds that we want. So we just wanted to slow down and really have a lot more control, basically, over how the whole thing went. So.
Yes, great. I love your philosophy, and the mindset is super natural, super. You have like going step by step and be conscious. And at Kääpä you are extremely conscious about the environment. And what concrete action does your company take for a more sustainable future? So
that's such a great question. I thank you for asking that, and I hope you ask that to everybody that you talk to. This is one of the concrete things that we don't talk about sometimes. And I think it's very easy to say. A lot of companies right now, I think, are doing what's called like greenwashing.
Yes.
Or, for instance, if you buy one of our products, we plant a tree.
Yeah.
And this is to me the most classic. Like, basically what that's saying to me is that what we do is we import things from somewhere around the world. Let's say Asia. It's processed there. It's maybe a very violent extractive industry, mining or something else. Who knows? Then it's flown halfway around the world. Which is also not so great, and then marked up in price massively, and maybe it's one-time disposable type of product,
Yes.
And there's just the life cycle, and the thought about the product is not done at all. But then, because the end consumer cares about the impact they're making on the environment, bless their heart, they go, we'll plant a tree.
Yes.
So there's a complete disconnection from that. Yeah. There's the life cycle and the impact the product is actually having on the environment is not taken into consideration. The impact, and then it just goes, we'll plant a tree, or we'll buy some carbon offset credits, or whatever it might be. And that's a philosophy that I think is very dangerous.
Yes.
Our company, we have a very active subcommittee in our company, which I'm a member of. And this subcommittee in our company has the mission of ensuring that every product that people buy from us, be that a brand that we work with who buys our wholesale mushroom powder or liquid extracts, or if it's you who's buying Kääpä health products, whoever the consumer might be, that through the purchase of that good, it's making a regenerative impact on the ecosystem. And we define ecosystem here at our company as also humans, because we're part of the ecosystem. So we're buying that product, it's actually having a regenerative effect. So the more you buy Kääpä health products, the more regeneration will happen to the ecosystem. That's something that we stand behind very clearly. And are we doing that right now? No.
Yeah.
It's not like that right now. I want to be really honest. It's not. We need to do massive amount of product lifecycle assessments and audits. We need to be doing some changes here in our company. It's a long road in front of us, but we hope that within a few years, we have reached that mission and that vision and that goal. And that's our intention. So the things that we do right now, we are making very conscious decisions now in terms of, obviously everything's grown here. So it's grown in the European Union. And we are using native strains. So we're reducing a lot of the impact on the ecosystem if a laboratory door is open. We're also utilizing actually just, really fresh, healthy birch sawdust substrate for the mushrooms to eat. So what that allows us is that we can really be changing a lot of the mindsets of forest owners here in Finland, that, we can be ensuring that how they are growing and managing their forests is with a continuous cover forestry program, or that they're PEFC certified or FSC certified forestry, which is very sustainable and regenerative forestry. And by being active in this kind of industry, we can require those things from the places that we buy from.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift. It's seeing something from a different perspective and with authenticity and real ethic behind each decision. Yeah, I love the way of thinking. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of good decisions come from that way of thinking. I think it's when when we formed this subcommittee, it was very uncomfortable, actually.
Yeah,
because we all knew that there's things we could do better, right? I mean, for instance, one of the things that we use in 𝐃𝐻 Health products is a product from a company in the Netherlands called 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐤. And that's the bottles that we have. We chose those bottles. They're actually quite expensive. I mean, 3-4 times any other kind of glass bottle. But they do not let any UV light in, there's no damage to the contents inside at all. And you can take that bottle, you can throw it against a brick wall, and it's not going to break.
Wow.
So it's a very high quality glass bottle. And we thought, okay, let's use these bottles, and people can reuse them.
Yeah.
But I mean, is everyone going to reuse those bottles? Probably not. So I mean, I think we have to just start to think about everything, all the decisions that we made, put everything in kind of a matrix. Do we want to have a system of a subscription model on the website where people can get, maybe there's some at-home device, and we're shipping basically then, some type of refilling liquid. I mean, we have to rethink a little bit our business model in that sense to make sure we meet this goal. And of course, people who are buying products are also going to have to rethink that a little bit too. So,
yeah.
But it's an interesting conversation to start, and it's an interesting way of thinking. And I think the most important is it's interesting to decide as a company that this is our responsibility. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And that's what's been done at 𝐃𝐻. This is our responsibility. It's not the EU's. It's not some governments. It's not our consumers. It's not our customers, right, who need to change this. It's us.
Yeah.
Our responsibility.
I agree. Thank you. And I would like to close this interview by asking you if there is one or more books that inspire you and that you can recommend or you want to recommend to our listeners.
Yeah, I would say recently there's an incredible book I just finished by Dr. Gábor Maté, which I would highly recommend about trauma and the effect that trauma has on our lives. And that a lot of healing can happen from identifying traumas in our life. That to me, I would say number one, read that. It's an amazing book.
I didn't know
and
that
I would
one.
say the second most important book that I've read recently is a book called Radical Mycology. And this is a really incredible book for those who are very interested in fungi who are listening. And it's a book that goes into the medicinal compound properties and the effects for that, but also the effects on how fungi can regenerate soil, decompose plastics, help sequester more carbon, basically solve a lot of the really bigger scale problems that humanity is facing right now, and things that our company is also working on quite a lot too.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. It was really a pleasure to have you here today. I hope really that I will be able to come to Finland to do a tour of your 𝐃𝐻 farm and learn more about mushroom cultivation and about your product. Really, thank you. Thank you for this interview.
Welcome anytime. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.